Today, I want to remind you of something easy to forget in the noise of everyday life. You didn't find this message by accident. Moments like this have a way of arriving precisely when we need them, not earlier, not later. They appear at the intersection of readiness and possibility, and the fact that you're here, listening, means something important. You're seeking direction, clarity, purpose, or simply a reason to believe there's more ahead than what you've left behind. You see, every meaningful change begins with awareness, not action awareness. Before people shift their habits, careers, relationships, or mindsets, they first experience a moment of recognition, a moment that says, pay attention, there's something here for you. This message is one of those moments. Maybe you've been questioning your path, maybe you've been feeling stuck, maybe you've been waiting for a sign, some small confirmation that you're not wandering aimlessly. Well, here it is, but awareness alone doesn't reshape your life. You must decide what to do with it. You can treat this message as a coincidence, something you came across and quickly forget. Or you can treat it as a catalyst, something that invites you to pause and ask, why did this reach me now? Because here's what's true. People don't move forward because the world suddenly changes around them. People move forward when they choose to interpret moments like this as meaningful. And when you choose that meaning, you step into responsibility, not the heavy kind, but the empowering kind. The kind that reminds you that your choices today shape the story you will tell tomorrow. There is something uniquely human about wanting our lives to matter. We crave purpose, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. We want to know that our actions connect to something larger than tasks, deadlines, or routines. And they do when we remember our why, your values, your beliefs, your vision for the future you're trying to build. This message found you to remind you of those things, to remind you that you are not behind, to remind you that growth doesn't follow a schedule, to remind you that your life becomes meaningful the moment you choose to make it meaningful. So don't rush past this moment. Don't silence the instinct that tells you to pay attention. You found this message for a reason. You are ready to think differently, ready to choose intentionally, ready to step back into the story you were always meant to lead. Let this message be the beginning, not the answer, not the finish line, but the spark. Because every great change in human history started with something small, a sentence, an idea, a moment just like this, and now it's your turn. Purpose is not something people stumble upon randomly. It is something uncovered, often quietly, through moments that feel strangely intentional. When you encounter a message that stops you, challenges you, or makes you feel something, it isn't the message itself that carries power, it's the alignment between that moment and an internal need you've been ignoring, postponing, or not yet ready to articulate. Purpose reveals itself when circumstance brings you to a point where your mind can finally recognize the patterns that were always there. In this way, purpose becomes less of a discovery and more of an awakening. Many people move through life driven by tasks, responsibilities, and routines, never questioning the deeper meaning behind their actions. It's easy to mistake motion for progress, or activity for fulfillment. But every so often, life interrupts the pattern. It gives you a message, an event, or a thought that refuses to be dismissed. When this happens, it's not an accident, it's a signal. It is an opportunity to examine whether what you are doing aligns with why you are doing it. Circumstances can push you, but purpose pulls you. And when something pulls you, you feel it immediately. The shift in attention, the heightened awareness, the sense that something here matters more than the surrounding noise. Purpose becomes clearest during moments of friction. When you feel dissatisfied, restless, or uncertain, it's often because your actions have drifted out of alignment with your deeper beliefs. This misalignment creates tension not to punish you, but to guide you. Just as physical pain alerts the body to a problem that needs attention, emotional discomfort highlights gaps between your values and your reality. When a message resonates with you during such a time, it acts as a mirror. It reflects what you've been overlooking and invites you to reconnect with the reasons that once inspired you. Circumstances alone cannot define your direction. Two people can experience the same moment, hear the same message, or face the same challenge, yet respond completely differently. What separates them is not luck or intelligence, it's awareness of purpose. Individuals who understand their why interpret circumstances as information rather than obstacles. They use them as feedback to navigate more intentionally. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That shift in perspective transforms uncertainty into clarity. Understanding purpose requires honesty, not the kind measured by external expectations, but the kind that asks you to acknowledge your internal truths. This is where many people struggle. It is far easier to stay busy than to confront questions like, "What truly matters to me? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I trying to become?" Yet these questions are essential, because without them, direction becomes reactive. You begin following paths others set for you, adopting goals you never chose, and measuring success by standards that have nothing to do with your inner compass. When you finally encounter something that stops you long enough to think, that moment becomes meaningful precisely because it challenges that pattern. Purpose provides anchoring. It allows you to make sense of your experiences, choices, and aspirations. When you understand your purpose, setbacks don't feel like failures, they feel like recalibrations. Success doesn't feel like luck, it feels like alignment. Decisions no longer depend on convenience, but on conviction. This clarity doesn't eliminate uncertainty, it simply gives you a foundation strong enough to navigate uncertainty with confidence. Circumstance can offer direction only when you interpret it through the lens of purpose. A difficult job, a broken routine, a surprising opportunity, an unexpected message, each of these carries potential meaning. But potential becomes reality only when you choose to reflect rather than react. Purpose turns ordinary moments into pivotal ones. It transforms random encounters into meaningful signals. It turns confusion into insight. When you frame your experiences around the question, "What does this have to do with my why?" you begin to uncover threads that were invisible before. You found the message because you were at a point where your mind was ready to listen. That readiness is important. People do not absorb information based on when it appears, they absorb it based on when they are prepared to understand it. Purpose works the same way. It becomes clear when you are willing to pause, question, and realign. This willingness is what transforms circumstance into insight. Purpose doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but it gives uncertainty direction. It doesn't promise comfort, but it offers meaning. It doesn't guarantee answers, but it gives you a reason to search. When you begin choosing actions based on purpose rather than circumstance, your path becomes more intentional, your decisions more meaningful, and your experiences more connected to the person you aim to be. Awareness is often misinterpreted as simply noticing what is happening around you, but true awareness goes far deeper. It is the ability to observe your inner world with clarity, your thoughts, emotions, motivations, and patterns without immediately reacting to them. It is the shift from operating on autopilot to consciously engaging with the moment in front of you. When a message resonates, when something catches your attention in a way you can't easily dismiss, that is awareness activating. It signals that a part of you is becoming conscious of something you've overlooked or avoided. Awareness is not passive. It is the first active step in any meaningful transformation. Human behavior is shaped heavily by habit. People develop routines, beliefs, and interpretations over years, often without examining whether they still serve who they are becoming. But awareness disrupts that cycle. It creates a pause, a small but powerful interruption in the usual rhythm. In this pause, you gain the ability to question your assumptions, reflect on your experiences, and consider possibilities that were previously hidden. That pause is where growth begins. Without awareness, change becomes accidental or forced. With awareness, change becomes intentional. A resonating message often feels surprising, even unsettling, because it reveals something you subconsciously recognize but haven't consciously acknowledged. This is why certain words, situations, or insights strike you more deeply than others. They tap into a readiness within you, a readiness to understand, to accept, or to evolve. Awareness does not appear randomly. It emerges when your internal state aligns with the meaning of the moment. The fact that a message feels significant is evidence that your mind is opening to a new layer of understanding. Awareness also exposes patterns. Many of the challenges people face are not isolated events but recurring themes. They repeat until recognized. It could be the pattern of postponing important decisions, remaining in unfulfilling circumstances, resisting change out of fear, or pursuing goals that lack personal meaning. When you become aware of a pattern, you gain power over it. You can question its origin, its purpose, and its impact. You can decide whether it is supporting or hindering your growth. Until then, patterns control you. Once you recognize them, you can redirect them. But awareness is not always comfortable. It can reveal truths you would prefer not to confront. It can highlight inconsistencies between your values and your actions, between your dreams and your behaviors, between your intentions and your outcomes. Yet discomfort is not a sign to retreat, it is a sign that something important is surfacing. Growth rarely feels easy in its early stages. Awareness acts as a catalyst, bringing clarity to areas that need attention. This clarity is not meant to criticize, it is meant to liberate. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Awareness also deepens emotional intelligence. When you observe your reactions not to judge them, but to understand them, you gain insight into your triggers, fears, and desires. You learn why certain situations irritate you, why certain opportunities excite you, and why certain messages awaken something inside you. Emotional awareness helps you respond rather than react. Instead of being pulled by impulse or emotion, you can choose behavior that aligns with your long-term values and goals. This form of self-awareness strengthens your ability to navigate relationships, work, and personal challenges with greater intention. Awareness is the foundation of learning. You can only absorb new information to the extent that you are open to receiving it. When a message resonates, it shows that your mental framework is expanding. Something in your understanding is shifting, creating space for new insight. This is why certain lessons feel profound even when they appear simple. The power lies not in their complexity, but in the timing they arrive exactly when you are perceptive enough to appreciate them. Awareness also bridges the gap between knowing and doing. Many people intellectually understand what they should do, pursue their goals, take care of themselves, set boundaries, follow their values, but fail to act because they lack awareness of the deeper fear or belief holding them back. Once they become aware of the root cause, action becomes easier. Awareness illuminates the internal obstacles that prevent external action. It reveals what needs to change within so that change can occur without. When you notice that a message feels meaningful, it is not the message alone that matters, it's the awakening happening inside you. Something is shifting in your perception, something is aligning. Awareness is the internal sign that you are ready to receive, ready to understand, and ready to grow. It is the beginning of clarity, not because the external world changed, but because your perspective did. Choice is the defining force that turns insight into movement. While awareness helps you recognize an opportunity for growth, it is choice that determines whether that awareness becomes meaningful. People often underestimate the power of their choices, viewing them as small, isolated decisions rather than the cumulative architecture of their lives. Yet every direction you take, every habit you reinforce, and every belief you strengthen originates from a choice sometimes conscious, sometimes unconscious, but always influential. When you encounter a message that resonates, your next step isn't determined by the message itself. It's determined by the choice you make in response. Many individuals wait for clarity before making decisions, assuming that a perfect understanding will eventually arrive and tell them exactly what to do. But clarity is not something you receive before acting, it is something you gain through action. Choice creates momentum. Without it, even the most profound insights dissolve into fleeting thoughts. A meaningful message can stir emotion, spark reflection, or ignite possibility, but unless you choose to respond, the experience remains incomplete. Choice is the bridge between intention and transformation. Every choice carries a ripple effect. A small decision today can reshape the course of your future in ways you cannot yet see. Choosing to reflect rather than dismiss, choosing to act rather than delay, choosing to grow rather than remain comfortable, these are the decisions that shape trajectories. People often imagine that only large, dramatic choices matter, but everyday decisions hold the greatest influence because they reflect your true priorities. The choice to be consistent, to be disciplined, to be truthful with yourself, to pursue what matters even when it is inconvenient, these patterns accumulate and become the foundation of your direction. Choice also requires responsibility, and responsibility is often misunderstood. It is not about blame or burden, it is about ownership. When you take ownership of your decisions, you reclaim agency over your life. You stop viewing circumstances as fixed constraints and start seeing them as variables you can influence. This shift is empowering. It reminds you that you are not merely shaped by your environment, you actively shape your environment through the choices you make within it. Even when you cannot control what happens, you can control how you interpret, respond, and move forward. Choice is not always easy. It often demands courage, especially when the path ahead is uncertain. People fear making the wrong decision, but stagnation is also a decision, one with consequences just as real as action. Choosing nothing is still choosing. It keeps you in place, reinforcing the patterns you may be trying to break. Growth requires movement, and movement requires choosing despite uncertainty. The absence of perfect information doesn't mean you are unprepared. It simply means you are human. The willingness to choose, even imperfectly, is what builds resilience and direction. Choice reveals commitment. When you choose something intentionally, you declare what matters to you. This declaration is not spoken, it is lived. Choosing to invest time in learning reflects a commitment to growth. Choosing to surround yourself with people who inspire you reflects a commitment to well-being. Choosing to let go of what no longer aligns with your values reflects a commitment to authenticity. These decisions form the internal compass that guides your path. The more aligned your choices become with your values, the clearer your direction becomes. A message resonates not because it provides instruction, but because it awakens a sense of possibility. Once awakened, choice determines what that possibility becomes. You can choose to take a small step, reflect more deeply, question your assumptions, adjust your perspective, or commit to a new direction, or you can choose to let the moment pass. The moment does not define you, your response does. Choice transforms inspiration into action, potential into progress, and intention into reality. For many people, the greatest obstacle to meaningful choice is fear of failure, judgment, or change. But fear is not a barrier unless you allow it to guide your decisions. When you choose in alignment with your values rather than your fears, you create a life that reflects your aspirations rather than your anxieties. This requires practice. It requires consistently choosing direction over distraction, purpose over comfort, and authenticity over expectation. Over time, these choices accumulate into momentum, and momentum becomes direction. Ultimately, direction is not something you find. It is something you shape through your decisions. When a message reaches you at the right moment, it offers a spark of clarity. But the real shift happens when you choose to respond. Choice is what gives meaning to awareness. It turns insight into action and transforms possibility into lived experience. Every step you take is a choice, and every choice is a step shaping the path ahead. Every individual exists within a broader story, one that stretches beyond personal goals, daily responsibilities, or momentary struggles. This larger narrative is shaped by the ways people influence each other, contribute to their communities, and align their actions with values that extend beyond immediate circumstances. Recognizing that you play a role in something bigger than yourself doesn't diminish your individuality, it elevates it. It reminds you that your actions, choices, and presence have meaning that ripples outward, often in ways you may never fully see. When a message finds you at the right moment, it acts as a reminder that your life is part of a wider, interconnected purpose. Human beings naturally seek significance, not the kind defined by recognition or status, but the deeper sense of wanting to know that their existence matters. This longing is not a weakness, it is a reflection of our social and emotional nature. People are wired to connect, contribute, and create meaning. When you begin to view your life as part of a larger narrative, you tap into that innate desire to make your actions count. You start to evaluate your choices not only by what they achieve for you, but by the impact they generate around you. Your role in a bigger narrative becomes clearer when you understand how interconnected life truly is. A single action, no matter how small, can influence another person's direction, mood, or mindset. A kind word can shift someone's day. A shared idea can spark innovation. A courageous decision can inspire confidence in others. Contribution is not limited to grand gestures. It is built through consistent, intentional actions that align with your values. Every interaction, response, and decision becomes a part of the story you contribute to the world. Your narrative is shaped not only by what you do, but by how you understand the influence of your actions. Many people underestimate their impact because they assume significance must be dramatic or visible. Yet, the most meaningful contributions are often quiet. They happen in conversations, in moments of support, in choosing integrity when no one is watching, in offering encouragement, or in living authentically. These moments create connections, trust, and change. They weave your story into the larger fabric of human experience. Recognizing your role in a bigger narrative also requires clarity about your values. Values act as guideposts, influencing the way you show up in the world. They determine what you stand for, what you prioritize, and what you are willing to commit to. When your actions align with your values, you create coherence between your inner self and your external impact. This coherence allows your role in the larger narrative to feel purposeful rather than accidental. You are no longer drifting, you are contributing intentionally. Impact becomes most meaningful when it is rooted in authenticity. Trying to play a role that doesn't reflect who you truly are leads to exhaustion and disconnection. But embracing your genuine strengths, perspectives, and passions allows you to contribute in a way that is unique to you. No two individuals play the same role in the world's narrative because no two people share the same combination of experiences and insights. Your uniqueness is not a limitation, it is your contribution. What you understand, what you care about, and what drives you are all part of the larger story that only you can shape. Being part of a bigger narrative also means understanding that your challenges and setbacks are not isolated incidents. They are chapters within a longer story. Moments of struggle often expand your capacity for empathy, resilience, and wisdom. These qualities deepen your ability to connect with others and support them through their own challenges. When you navigate hardship with awareness and intention, you strengthen not only your own narrative, but also the narratives of those who are influenced or inspired by your perseverance. The larger story you contribute to is not linear, it evolves with your choices. Every time you choose growth over comfort, understanding over judgment, courage over fear, or compassion over indifference, you reinforce the kind of narrative you want to help build. These choices shape the environments you're part of your home, your friendships, your workplace, and your community. The energy you bring into these spaces has a lasting effect. People remember how you made them feel, how you supported them, and how you stood for what mattered. These memories become part of their story too, creating a chain of influence that extends far beyond your direct reach. Your life's narrative is interwoven with countless others, forming a collective story that grows through shared values, meaningful actions, and intentional presence. Understanding this interconnectedness doesn't restrict your personal journey, it expands it. When you recognize that you are part of something larger, you begin to see purpose not as an abstract idea, but as a daily practice. You start living with a deeper sense of awareness, knowing that the way you show up matters. It shapes your path, influences others, and contributes to the ongoing narrative of the world around you.